Question: what are you a fan of? Is it a movie, a book, a TV show, a music group, a sports team, or maybe something less conventional? I'm Regan.
And I'm Christian. We've spent over 10 years working in the customer service and entertainment industries. It's this experience which leads us to believe that everyone has a compelling, personal connection to the things that they are a fan of.
And we're here to uncover the secret fandoms of the Gulf Coast's VIPs. Join us as we talk with passionate fans about what they love. On this episode of Fantastic People,
and when he gets to the part that goes, I am the one thing in life I can control. I am inimitable. I am an original. I'm not falling behind or running late. I'm not standing still. I am lying in wait. Those words are powerful.
Yeah. We are joined by Anna Dearmon Kornick. Anna is a time management coach based in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, head of community at Clockwise, and the host of the highly successful podcast, It's About Time, a podcast sharing stories and strategies to inspire professionals seeking better work, life, and balance. We take an absolute deep dive with Anna in discussing Lin-Manuel Miranda's hit musical Hamilton and how the song Wait For It is a perfect song for Anna to reset her focus during some exceptionally challenging moments. This episode of Fantastic People is sponsored by Hellcat Hangar in Pensacola, Florida. Hellcat Hangar's venture is to build a thriving network of individuals and opportunities centered around the production arts and media. They strive to provide exceptional service as a production studio, valuable insight and education, and to enrich the overall industry across the Gulf Coast. They open their doors as a business, a venue, and as a community event center, but in all manners, their doors are open to cultivate a culture of togetherness. To join the Hellcat Hangar community or reserve a time for your event, you can find them online at hellcathangar.com or call 850-341-7403.
So, Anna, we appreciate you joining us today. I do want to say I think this is special because I might be wrong. Reagan, correct me here. I think you're our first guest from Louisiana.
Oh, my goodness.
I think so.
What an honor.
That is a true statement.
Which still counts as the Gulf Coast.
Yep.
You live outside of Baton Rouge, correct?
I do. I live right outside of Baton Rouge in a suburb called Prairieville, but it's a whole lot easier for me to just say, oh, yeah, I live in Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
I have never been. My wife's best friend lives in Baton Rouge, and I'm a terrible husband, and she's always like, we should go. And I'm like, you could go by yourself. It's fine.
What? I mean, to me, nothing beats tailgating for an LSU game. I can imagine that the tailgate scene is probably a little bit different this season, just given the current state of affairs. But yeah, there really is nothing better than tailgating in a Saturday night in Death Valley Tiger Stadium. So highly do recommend that you come over, join us. I'll give you a list of restaurants to go to, and you'll be good to go.
Perfect.
That's awesome.
I will drive through Baton Rouge next year. I promise.
Okay.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, because Christian, have you made that?
I have not announced it on this podcast. No.
Okay. All right. I'll let you do that when you're ready. So is there a Texas Roadhouse in Baton Rouge in that area?
Probably.
Oh, okay.
What a weird thing to ask.
I know it's weird. I have this thing, and I'm nowhere close to doing it. But at some point in my life, I will visit every Texas Roadhouse.
Wow.
Really?
I maybe we'll see. My wife probably won't let me. I'll probably end up doing it on
funny.
my own.
Texas Roadhouse. Is that the ones with the peanuts? No, that's Logan's Roadhouse.
Yeah,
Logan's Roadhouse.
Texas Roadhouse did it too.
Okay.
They do it too. Now COVID, I think, changed that. I don't think people couldn't hand out peanuts, but yeah. So I worked there for 5 years.
Really?
Almost 5 years. Yeah. And it's just a super deep culture. It's a really connected employee culture. I'm sort of familiar. I have people that have worked at different ones in Mississippi and Louisiana. So it's like, oh, that'd be cool. There's like over 500 stores
Oh, that is really
worldwide.
cool.
There's some overseas. And so it'd be cool to like, it's, it's about visiting states in different areas, but then like find the Texas Roadhouse and go.
Yeah.
Normally I don't do that. If I visit a new place, I'm like, let's go somewhere that I won't find at home.
Right.
But
I did read about a retirement couple or a retired couple who has visited every Cracker Barrel.
That seems crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, that's an accomplishment.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like 80% of exits off the interstate.
That is a lot when you think about it.
Stop at every exit. That's all you got to do.
Yeah. So, Anna, you are also a podcast host like us. That is exciting. How did you get into podcasting?
Oh gosh. So yes, I am a podcast host. My podcast is called It's About Time. It's a podcast about work, life, and balance. So I'm a time management coach, and I knew that when I started coaching that I wanted to create an additional outlet to teach and to share and to interact. And honestly, a big part of it. So my episodes are half teaching style episodes and half interviews where I ask people how they do life, like how they, and it comes from a place of just being so curious to know, do you do a paper planner? Are you really into Google Cal? What's your to-do list look like? Oh, you have a nanny? Really? Finding out how people do life to me is so just interesting. And if I'm curious about that, surely other people are too. So it really came from a place of just wanting to know how other people are doing things.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think we relate to that in a lot of ways because certainly curiosity of other people is really at the core of this show as well. I don't really think there's anything more interesting than people. Like there's such a variety to us, and there are so many ways to do one thing, and it seems like humanity comes at it from every different direction, and none of it's wrong. So I just love to hear people talk about their experience. So I really relate to that. Yeah. How did you walk me through, because as a person who has very poor time management, how did you master it and decide that, hey, this is my kind of like my calling to teach people how to improve in this?
Sure. So I've got to take you all the way back to 2009 when I kicked off my career wearing pencil skirts, navy blazers, and high heels, click-clacking through the marble halls of Congress. So my very first job was as a scheduler to a United States congressman. So I spent probably 10 to 12 hours a day parked in front of an Outlook calendar, fielding meeting requests from constituents back home in Louisiana, speaking requests, media interviews, dinner invitations, reception invites, not to mention, work like committee meetings and vote schedules. I was taking in and coordinating hundreds of requests for my boss's time every single day. And it was, like I said, it was my very first job. So not only was I in charge of managing the time for one of the most hectic schedules in the country, I was also trying to get a handle on time management myself as a young professional. So it was really a baptism by fire, figuring out a lot at once. I did begin to miss Louisiana. Nothing beats Louisiana food. Boiled crawfish is my absolute favorite food. And would you believe that it's not readily available in Washington, D.C.?
What?
I mean,
no.
Right. And but I missed home. I missed my grandmother being right down the road and able for me to visit whenever I wanted. So I moved back to Louisiana, where I kicked off about a decade-long career in the 24/7 always-on world of crisis communications. I worked in a number of state government roles, alphabet soup almost, the Department of Natural Resources to the Department of Health and Hospitals. At one point, I was communications director to the lieutenant governor. Moved into a crisis communications role at a boutique PR firm in New Orleans. And across all the different roles that I held, earthquakes, hurricanes, droughts, tornadoes, oil spills, plant explosions, nonprofit embezzlement schemes, universities on the brink of collapse, You name it. And I've probably escorted someone down a secret freight elevator into a back alley in order to avoid TV cameras waiting outside. That was my life on a pretty regular basis. And, as you can imagine, that kind of always on call lifestyle really can begin to take its toll on you. So I was missing really important life events like my stepdad's 70th birthday. I wasn't there. Friends' baby showers. I was stepping out of dinners that were really important to me in order to take calls and deal with clients who were dealing with not so urgent emergencies. And, after a while, I knew that something had to give. Something had to change. And that after one too many mornings spent crying in my Jeep out in the parking lot or, trudging my way up the stairwell to my windowless office, I was done. And so I walked away from my full-time role, what you would call a prestigious career in crisis communications in search of something different. And at the time, I didn't know what different looked like. So it took some trial and error. But I had to believe that there was a way that I could combine that time management background with my love of communications and somehow help people either dig themselves out of that dark place that I was in or help them avoid it altogether. And so that's what led me to time management, and that being, this is a way that I can help people. I 100% believe that time is our most valuable, non-renewable resource. We are not promised tomorrow. I grew up in a funeral home family. On top of that, my dad's a funeral director. And so I grew up every day being, confronted with the reality that we're not promised tomorrow. And so we've got to use our time while we have it. And that all went into me deciding I'm going to be a time management coach. This is what I'm going to help people with. And so that's what I do.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's an incredible story. Thank you for sharing that with us. I would be upset with myself if I didn't take this opportunity, however, to jump on the Washington, D.C. train here and say, because what we're here to talk about is the birth of our nation. What is the state of our nation? Quoting. So I'm so excited because we are here to talk about Hamilton today.
Yes. And give us, Anna, if you could, as best you can, a synopsis and explanation of what that is for people who may have somehow missed it during 2020.
What is Hamilton? Okay, Hamilton is an amazing, historic, award-winning, moving Broadway production created by creative genius Lin-Manuel Miranda. And it tells the story of one of our founding fathers, Alexander Hamilton.
Alexander Hamilton.
There you go. Thank you. Regan, I'm going to say over under Regan sings 5 times on this episode.
Yep,
I know.
Yeah. If there's ever going to be one, it's going to be this one.
Alexander Hamilton. I know. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
So can you tell me, like, when you were first introduced and, was it an immediate affection?
So it's really kind of funny. I was working on a political campaign one summer, and my boss, so she was running for a statewide political office in Louisiana. And so I was riding all over the state with her from, the Bunky Corn Festival up to Greenwood, Louisiana, and all over the place. And she was a big fan of Hamilton. So she wanted to listen to it. She wanted to listen to the soundtrack in the car. And I didn't get it. I didn't really understand the appeal. I mostly just tuned it out. I just didn't think it was for me. It just seemed really overrated at that point. It was probably 2017, 2018. So it had been on Broadway, but it hadn't made it to Disney Plus yet. And I just didn't get what the appeal was. And so that was really my first introduction to Hamilton, was riding around back roads of Louisiana, hearing the soundtrack in her car. And so But fast forward to the summer of 2020 when we were all staying at home during the pandemic, and the weekend of July 4th, Disney Plus released Hamilton live, whatever they called it, released Hamilton to Disney Plus. And I thought, okay, what else do we have to do? We're at home, might as well check it out. And yeah, so that was really my first full introduction to it. And I remember sitting there watching with my husband and thinking, wait, we're going to need some subtitles here. What are they saying? So we had to stop and put on closed captioning just to understand what they were saying. And then I started to get dizzy because the songs are so fast. I was trying to read and watch and read and watch. So it was kind of a trip the first time I watched it.
Yeah, it's man, it is a phenomenon, I think. How wide of a cultural appeal that Hamilton has. Do you have an affiliation or affection for Broadway besides that or prior to that?
I actually do. I grew up listening to Broadway music. So my mom was actually a member of a local production company when I was growing up. She was a member of the Red River Opera and the City Park Players in Alexandria, Louisiana, which is a really small town in central Louisiana. So I remember growing up and going to her rehearsals for the Pirates of Penzance and watching recorded videos, somebody bringing a camcorder in to her production of Hansel and Gretel because she played the Sandman. And so Broadway music really was I won't say like a mainstay, but it was on pretty often in our house. The sounds of Phantom of the Opera and Cats. I remember those two really clearly. A lot of Phantom was played in our home growing up.
Definitely, if you were a child of the late 80s or early 90s, the soundtrack of Broadway is Phantom of the Opera and Cats. Like those,
Yeah.
Broadway almost went away if not for those two things that really kind of saved it until Rent and eventually Wicked come along. But
Yeah.
I myself pretty big Broadway fan. I think Regan is as well. But it's just something specific about Hamilton. And I do think Disney Plus, the way they presented it, like having it be a stage production and not a movie adaptation, and then having it be such a high quality version of that, has just created this mass audience that probably has not had access to a Broadway show before. And to me, that is one of the truly special things about both Hamilton, but Disney Plus, and again, like you're talking about, July 4th weekend 2020, gosh, 70 million homes across the United States all watched Hamilton.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. The access that it opened up to homes who may never have an opportunity to set foot in a theater, it was really, really special.
Regan, how do you feel about Hamilton? And do you watch this with subtitles? Because this is a huge debate on this podcast.
Yeah, it is a hot topic on this podcast because I vehemently dislike subtitles when I'm watching something. No offense to the deaf and the people that need them. I understand that there's a need for it. So with Hamilton, though, we got probably, I don't know, 30, 45 seconds into the first song. And I was like, oh, hold up. We're going to have to watch it with subtitles. Like I said it because I was like, I will have no idea what's happening if I don't read this show. I tell everybody, no, seriously, it's rap. Like it's rap music. And so you must have subtitles on. You're going to miss it if you don't.
Yeah.
What do you, this is for both of you, but Anna, start with you first. What do you think of the traits of this show specifically? People who like it are obsessed. It's like everyone is upset. If you like Hamilton, you're obsessed with Hamilton. What is it about this show that makes that happen?
I mean, in as few words as possible, the music is fun. The music is fun. And that enough is, I think, what keeps people paying attention to
Mhm.
It's something that is so different from what we are accustomed to associating with Broadway style
Yeah.
music,
Yeah.
that it just feels different. It feels cool. You feel like you're included in this cool club for watching it and liking it, and you feel good about yourself in a way, because you feel like you're being
Mhm.
intellectual, because it's about history. So I think it makes you, the music is fun, but it makes you feel good about yourself too, because it
Mhm.
it doesn't feel like you're watching like a trash production or something about
Mhm.
nothing. You're watching history.
What I think really blew me away was it was almost like a new perspective.
Mhm.
Okay, so and I know this was intentional, but if you look at our American history, there's so much slavery that built the country, right? And to have people of color and ethnicity performing these characters was a statement. It was a
Mhm.
very clear statement, but I thought it was beautiful to have it through that lens and through that perspective. And I think that's a lot of the appeal as well, is that it makes that statement, which connects, and is a very timely statement to be making in today's culture. So,
Yeah, totally agree. I to both of your points. I think the music is outstanding, and it's just so drastically different. I mean, this is, I realize In the Heights had come before this, and Lin Manuel's hip hop stamp was already present, but it definitely, you know, props to that show. I like that music, but it is not Hamilton. Um,
mm,
but the other portion of when you have historical figures who viewed black people as 3/5 of a person,
mm,
then being played by black people 250 years later,
Mhm.
yeah,
um, on the biggest stage with the biggest audience. It's just a powerful, powerful outlook on where we've come from, what we've been, and where we are.
yep,
And I think it's something that we need to face the reality of who we've been, but that helps us then appreciate who we have become and who we can become. And I think that's really at the heart and soul of this show. Um, yeah, I mean, I watched it again today, and in my mind, Aaron Burr looks like Leslie Odom Jr. Like
yeah,
I that
yeah,
is what that guy looks like
Right.
now.
I
yeah.
know. I completely feel you. I mean, look at where we are. Look at where we
Hmm.
started.
Yeah, nice one. I see what you did
Yeah.
there.
What? What keeps you coming back to it?
Oh gosh, what keeps me coming back to it? I've got to say that, like, there's a song for anything. There's a
Mm,
song in Hamilton for any mood, any situation, anything you need. You can just pull from it, and instantly you're transported into that mindset. So before we recorded, I was feeding my daughter. She's 6 months old, and I wanted to get into like a little bit of a somber mood, I guess you could
mm,
say, like going into this interview. And so I listened to Who Lives, Who Dies, Who Tells Your Story, the very last
mm,
song. And as I pressed play, I thought, okay, let me see if I can listen to this without crying. Um,
mm.
and I failed within a few seconds.
Right.
I like that it just starts and I'm just completely done. But I think what really keeps me coming back to it is because there's a song, there's a moment for anything, for any feeling.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I haven't had a missed opportunity to say what did I miss earlier when I came back. Um, but but no, that's so true. I find myself singing Hamilton songs fairly often around the house because of something that somebody said or
Yeah.
because of something that's happening in that day that makes me think about a moment.
Yeah.
And very often it's what did I miss?
What
But
did I miss? That's so
um,
funny.
yeah.
Shout out to Derek Diamond, who is a friend and supporter of this show, who, when we announced we were doing Hamilton, he asked if we were going to do it in our studio. And the way he asked that question was if we were going to do it in the room where it happens, which
Yeah.
I thought was a great joke.
Yeah.
We're
That was good.
we're in the virtual recording studio where
Yeah,
it
Yeah.
there you go.
happens.
There you
Where it
go.
happens. Right.
One of my favorite things about this show which I think kind of connects to your history a little bit. You're talking about being in DC around 2009.
Mhm.
The first time Lin-Manuel Miranda ever performed a verse from Hamilton was at the White House. It was like a White House night of poetry, music, and spoken word in May of 2009. He did Alexander Hamilton, the opening song from the show, before it ever was on Broadway. He was writing a hip hop album about Hamilton and performed it in DC in front of President Obama, like 5 years before the Broadway show debuted.
I was in DC then, and I
Uh-oh.
wasn't there. How was I not there? I
You
feel like
missed
I
out.
should have been there.
Yeah. Yeah.
6 degrees of separation, right?
There you go.
That's amazing. I do think that I have heard of that. That's fantastic. One of my favorite things is so Lin-Manuel Miranda did the music for Moana, and
Mhm.
Chris Jackson,
Mm-hmm.
George Washington is the singing voice of Moana's dad.
Yep. Yep.
I did not know that.
Yeah. My wife has a huge crush on Christopher Jackson, so I am very aware of every performance he does. She makes
That's
sure
awesome.
to remind me.
Anna, tell us about your reset ritual song.
So I'm a time management coach, and
Mhm.
it is not unusual for our lives to get completely derailed in terms of
Mhm.
plans, what we had planned for the day. I mean, we were actually supposed to have this interview last week, and then both of my girls got sick. We ended up
Mm.
all traveling to go spend the week with my mom so that she could take care of us, because then I got
Mm.
sick.
Mhm.
Life happens, and sometimes you have to keep going, whether you
Mm.
want to or not. And when moments like that set in, I encourage my clients, and really anyone listening, to create what I like to call a reset ritual. And a reset
Mm.
ritual is a really simple, small activity, just a thing that you can do,
Mm.
say, or think that kind of helps you get grounded, take it back, take it down a notch, and sort of remember who you are. Remember where you're going. Just kind of take a beat, take a breath, and then keep going.
Mm.
Keep problem solving, keep moving forward. And in the last few years, especially, especially since Hamilton, the soundtrack became such a repeat, um,
Mm.
something that's almost constantly playing in the background of my life. I've moved around from song to song to song in terms of what's my favorite, and I've
Mm.
really landed on Wait for It as being my favorite. And
Mm.
it's so incredibly powerful and so emotional, and you can really just feel and put yourself in Aaron Burr's shoes as he's singing the words. And when he gets to the part that goes, "I am the one thing in life I can control. I am inimitable. I am an original. I'm not falling behind or running late. I'm not standing still. I am lying in wait."
Mm.
That, those words are powerful.
Yeah.
And when it comes
Mm.
down to it, we are the one thing in life that we can control. Our schedule can get blown to bits. Our coworker can yell at us. Our kid can throw a temper tantrum. I am the one thing in life I can control. I am inimitable. I am an original. And so my reset ritual, when
Mm.
I'm in that moment when the shit hits the fan,
Yeah.
that's what I go back to. And that's what I say in my head. I repeat those
Mm.
words, and I just can't help but remember, hey, you're in control here. You're in charge
Mm.
of how you respond. You're in charge of how you react. There is no one else like you, and no
Mm.
one else can beat you. This is where you're supposed to be right now. Let's rock and roll. Let's move forward.
Mm.
So, whether you steal that and take that on as your reset ritual, or you
Mm.
develop your own that maybe includes taking 5 deep breaths, I don't know, but
Right.
that's mine.
Yeah, I love that. Wait for It's my favorite song in the show. Has been since the very first time I ever heard it, and that is my favorite part. I think those lines are brilliantly written. Um, it it's always tough to say what's your favorite song in Hamilton because there's like a run between Wait for It and basically all the way through the end of the first act where it's
Yes.
just all hits.
So good.
But that there's a what's so great again, I have a huge man crush on Leslie Odom Jr., but he does his performance in that song, he doesn't really face the audience. It's very self-reflective. It's very like, I will turn my back to you. You don't need to see my face. This is a performance about me. I'm performing for myself in this moment. And at that moment, he really kind of does this half turn, and it's the first real time where the audience is getting Aaron Burr's perspective. And it's I mean, he's just got a gorgeous voice, but his performance and the way he moves his body in that scene it's phenomenal, and it really connects with those with the lyrics there. The other song I really love that song is I have a Bible degree, and Aaron Burr's grandfather is Jonathan Edwards, who wrote Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God, and he briefly kind of mentions that in that song. So I'm always like, you know, when he says that, he's talking about Jonathan Edwards, right? Like
That's awesome.
Yeah. Regan, what's your favorite tune?
I would say my favorite song is One Last Time. Just because it's like that. I mean, it's so powerful, and that perspective of really, you know, how our system works now. You know, he has to leave, and so he's like lamenting, but he's also looking to the future, and there's like so much emotion going on, and he's
so good too.
It's communicating.
He's so good.
The sort of the boldness to and the courage to take that step, to surrender the position. And also it is just Christopher Jackson just kills that song, and it's very powerful and I'm not going to sing it, but just, I won't do it justice. When I'm home alone by myself, I'll do it. But I mean, he kills those riffs. He kills the one last time, like at the end, like he just kills it. And so I get, I get fired up when I hear that song. So
what I love so much about not just that song, but the stage direction, the whatever you want to call it, choreography. So I was a speechwriter. I have been a speechwriter for a Louisiana lieutenant governor, for cabinet secretaries. I have written a lot of speeches in my time. And, you know, when George Washington goes to Alexander Hamilton and says, we got to write this, grab a pen and start writing. Yeah. It took me back to those times that my words were spoken by someone else in a place of power, in a place of authority. And as they sing the song, it starts with Alexander Hamilton more stage forward. I don't know the words. Yeah. And very gradually they switch places where Alexander's in the background, and I have chills right now thinking about it. And George Washington and they switch places, and it really is, to me, it made me think about those times where I would take a speech to a boss and we would go back and forth about the words and make sure that our language was just right and that the rhythm was just right. And then seeing that boss up on stage, and that really held a lot of meaning for me there to see that exchange.
That's huge.
That's really powerful, because that's such like a individualistic experience that 99.9% of people who watch that aren't going to have.
Never going to
connects directly to you. That's incredible.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So along those same lines, favorite character / actor.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so this changed over time too. I feel like it's really cliche to say that Alexander Hamilton is my favorite, but I mean, let's be honest, he is. I feel like Hercules Mulligan makes me want to fight somebody. He just makes me feel really jacked, you know, like whenever it's his turn. Let's see. I mean, how fun is Thomas Jefferson? Just ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, Lafayette. I just how can you even have a favorite when they just all have such unique and important presences, and how can you not love Angelica? And we named my daughter's pacifier. She has one of those wubbanubs, and it's a little stuffed penguin attached to a little pacifier, and her name is Peggy.
Oh, that's sweet.
That's
awesome.
I'm
Christian?
going to throw up probably some pictures on our social media because my daughter's 4-year-old birthday party was a Schuyler Sisters birthday party.
Oh, that is the coolest thing ever.
It was a blast.
Yeah, she actually, because I put on Hamilton and she was like, I know what I need to wear. And she ran to her closet and got out her Schuyler Sisters dress and came back out. It's pretty adorable, but
so you're a little biased towards the Schuyler
sisters. For me, it's Aaron Burr. Again, Leslie Odom Jr. can do no wrong in my mind. Props to the Oscar nominee. I like that guy a whole lot. I like that performance. I think Aaron Burr is really the main character of the show in the way I interpret it. But then it's Angelica. She just kills that. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to describe. It's hard for me to say that she's clearly the best singer in there for me when we're raving about Leslie Odom Jr. and Christopher Jackson. But what is her name? Oh, Renee Elise Goldsberry.
Yeah.
What is so killer to her is I think she balances the singing and the rap better than anybody else. When she goes, I mean, the Schuyler Sisters Killer song, she's got the most incredible part in it. But anytime she goes into a rap section, it is so seamless. And just she kills both parts so well. So I think Angelica's up there. I mean, it's a close 1A, 1B type of thing. Regan?
King George is my favorite.
Yeah.
It is
gotta choose the white guy, don't you, Regan?
No. It is just... Wow. Okay, here's why I say this, because this leads into my next question. But he is up there having a blast.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And his just every song that he does is that comedic relief, and just really, and it's very dynamic. It's very deceptive in that musically and vocally, there's a lot of range in his songs, but the way it's played, if you're not paying attention, you miss it.
Right.
Because
he doesn't
if you
move.
don't know anything about vocals and if you don't know anything about vocals and performance, like, you don't notice it, but it's very dynamic and very difficult. So that's why I love that character. It's a lot of fun, which leads me to my next question, which I'm going to answer for myself and then ask of the two of you. If and when eventually there's community theater and Hamilton comes to community theater and you had the opportunity to audition, which character would you want to play? And my answer is King George. Like, the second he came on stage, I was like, man, when that comes to Pensacola Little Theater, I am auditioning for King George.
I mean,
that's really tough.
You go ahead. I'm still thinking about it.
Man, I don't know. Probably Lafayette Thomas Jefferson.
Okay.
That's fun.
Yeah. That entrance in Act 2 is a blast. The rap battles, the cabinet meetings are great.
Guns and ships.
Yeah, Guns and Ships would be the hardest part, but it's worth the challenge.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I would audition for Alexander Hamilton. I don't. Okay. I like. Why not? No, right. Okay. Yeah. I think that would be the most fun to play. I guess I should have mentioned earlier. I grew up watching a VHS recording of Mary Martin's Peter Pan when I was little. So girls can play boy characters. It's fine.
If Lin-Manuel Miranda can do it, you can do it.
Yeah, so I would want to be Hamilton because he gets to have the most fun and he's in both acts and that just seems like the most fun to me and he's the star.
Yeah. Certainly, if that guy is supposed to play a 19-year-old Alexander Hamilton, you absolutely can as well.
Exactly. No, side note, I very often, because of King George, I will go, awesome. Wow. Like all the time.
I love it.
It just comes up on a regular basis.
I have an awesome wow shirt. I have an awesome wow and a rise up, and I almost wore.
They say
that's 3. You got 2 more. I said 5. You're at 3.
Yeah.
I got my husband a King George mug for Father's Day from my little girl. That is King
That's awesome.
George, and it just says da 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 da
Cool.
da da. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Which like also looks like Dada, which is perfectly fitting
Yeah.
for
Yep, makes
Father's
That's great.
Day.
I need one of those now.
It's pretty
So,
fantastic. Plus, can
Chelsea,
I just
if
say,
you're listening, get me that mug.
Chelsea, get the mug.
My wife, she doesn't. She doesn't listen to this podcast, but this is the true test if she listens or not. to
No
this
wives
episode.
do. Neither of
that's
ours
fine.
do.
Anyway. Our fan question. This comes from Ashton Conley, one of our Supercast supporters. And her question is, because Hamilton obviously is full of rap, do you normally like rap or listen to rap music in other scenarios?
Ooh, Ashton, super fun question. So yes, actually, I am a huge fan of early 2000s hip hop
goodness.
and rap. Cash Money taken over for the 99 and the 2000.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I'd
That's
say, so yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, that's great. We could have a whole separate episode on that, I feel.
Sounds good.
Great.
Yeah, we'll pass.
Regan,
awesome.
you a rap guy or no?
Okay. Yes, but and no.
Okay.
And here's why I say that. Yes, because of the talent that it takes and the difficulty that is behind the most talented ones. But no, in that I'm kind of a lyrics guy too. And like, if I'm not connected to the lyrics, if I can't relate to the lyrics, you totally lose me. And there's so much about it, not any criticism on it, but just so much about it that I cannot relate to. And so I just, it's fun. It's really, energetic and exciting, but I don't find myself choosing it when I'm like opening Spotify. Now there are a few in the past that I'll pull up for nostalgia, like Eminem, and that's all losing me now. But I will say one of his most I can't, man, this is bad. I can't remember his album. It was a diss album a couple of years ago that came out. I listened to that quite a lot.
Real angry time in your life?
No, something about it struck me, like something about just, it was very interesting to know that each track was very specifically dedicated to a person.
Interesting.
So I was like, what's the drama here?
Yeah, that ties into your connection with the lyrics, that you're looking for. You're looking for the message in it. That makes perfect sense.
Exactly. And so I was like very intrigued by it. And then along the way, I was like, man, this guy is so talented. And so I just kind of hung out on it for a while. And I sound like an idiot not knowing the name of the album. But yeah, I like, and then there was some Christian rap back in the day. Good old Grits and KJ52.
Those are things I have not heard in a long time.
Yeah. And anytime there's like a band like DC Talk with Toby Mac, like where they incorporate rap into the overarching songs, like I'm all about it. I love that stuff. But no, on the regular, when I pull up Spotify, that's not what I'm playing. Christian.
I love rap. It's not definitely not the majority of what I listen to, but I am pretty partial. And I, look, this is maybe one of those nature versus nurture things. Like, I grew up in a predominantly African American community in inner city Atlanta. Like, all my friends were listening to hip hop. I'm gonna listen to hip hop. And so I've always grown up listening to it. I've always enjoyed it. I will say it's something that I have kind of fallen out of. Like, I don't listen to a lot of modern hip hop. There are the exceptions.
Same. Yeah.
But I really partial to like Outkast, Notorious B.I.G., Tupac, NWA. I'm like dating myself here,
Gotcha.
but that's what I late 90s, early 2000s hip hop for me personally.
Side note, I totally forgot. All of the rap moments in Linkin Park songs, I can kill those moments. I can crush them.
Here we go for the 100th time. Hand grenade pins in every line.
Yeah. Anyway.
So we always end with two questions. And the first one, I'm really interested to hear your answer because it would be hard for me to answer. So I'm glad you're the one doing it. Do you have any critique for Hamilton or for the Hamilton fandom, or maybe even just Broadway in general?
So that's a really good question. I think that if I have a critique to offer for the fandom itself, because let's be honest, Hamilton, the production is basically flawless. But
Mm.
if I have a critique for the fandom itself, um, you know, I think that there's a little bit of snobbery um, that you find from those who have seen Hamilton, the original cast on stage production, those who have seen it at all in a theater, versus those who have only seen it on Disney Plus. And the fact that I've only seen Hamilton on Disney Plus, I think doesn't make me any less
Mhm.
of a fan, even though I've never seen it in a theater. I would love
Mhm.
to see it in a theater. I would love to turn back time and see the original cast
If I
perform it
could
on
turn
stage.
back time. Okay, that's four,
But
right?
yeah. But
Sorry.
I think that my critique would be that no fan is better than any other fan. We can all be fans, and you don't have to know, the name of every single, you know, actor in the show. You don't
Mhm.
have to know every single, tidbit of information. You don't have to know all the words to guns and ships to call yourself a
Mm.
fan. You can be a fan if you want to be a fan. And so I would just like for those who hold themselves in a higher regard, because they have seen it live, because they were in that, group of people who was able to see the original cast perform on Broadway. Hey, we can all be fans. We can all be equal opportunity fans here.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I do think if I had any one critique, this would be probably a little broader than that, but also to Broadway people in general and the way they treat the show, which is, I hate the word derivative, but like artistic people, that's always the
Mm.
the diss is it's derivative. But there's a problem for almost a lack of exclusivity for Hamilton because it has such mass appeal
Mm.
and it has so much access that people think less of it. And I just think that's bad.
Yeah.
That there's Broadway is not easy to get to. It's not cheap
Mhm.
to fly to New York City and stay in a fancy hotel and then buy $150 ticket, or in the case of Hamilton, a $400
Right.
Yeah.
ticket to go see this show. And so the fact that there is mass ability to consume this product, that doesn't make the product lesser, but there is that general attitude
Mhm.
among show tune people.
Yep.
And that's damaging and it's bad. And I really wish we would get rid of it
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
there are poor kids all over this country who love to sing or who love to make music and who would love the opportunity but just don't have it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And thank goodness for $6 for 1 month, Disney Plus, could allow them to consume this thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, and to that point, I mean, I likewise, I've not seen it in live and in person, but I first experienced Phantom of the Opera through the soundtrack.
Mhm.
I experienced Wicked through the soundtrack
Mhm.
before I saw either of those shows live. And I had all the songs, almost all the songs memorized, and was singing along when I was watching it live because I had been experiencing it for so many years.
Mm.
Uh, but it didn't taint my experience of the show when I saw it live. I mean, both times it was like absolutely just taken away
Yeah.
by the live experience that, you know, it didn't matter that I had been listening to it for years, right? It didn't matter that I knew all the songs. Seeing it live was absolutely a great experience. And
Yeah.
so to that point, like, yeah, hearing it, getting to experience it on TV, whatever that is, like it doesn't take away from that experience. And that doesn't make you any less of a fan because you are listening to it and you're enjoying it just like anybody else should. And so that
Mhm.
gatekeeping which is a common theme here on this podcast,
Mm.
is a bad thing. And it exists. We are finding it exists everywhere.
Wow.
Yeah. So the final question is, what does the future hold? What does the next 5 years look like for Hamilton?
That's such an interesting question for something where there will be no more episodes. How could there possibly be a sequel? Hamilton 2, the Hamiltoning. And so I think what I would like to see in the future, I would love to see another cast reunion, whatever form cast reunions decide to take, whether that's, reuniting for a Zoom sing along. I ate all of those up throughout the pandemic. Those were fantastic. More documentaries. Man, I would love to see a behind the scenes. There has to be documentary footage enough out there of them creating the production for there to be a really deep dive into the making of Hamilton. I would love to see that. Really, anything that's behind the scenes that tells more of the story behind the creative journey. Like, I would love to know more about that visit to the White House. And I do vaguely remember, I think that I've heard about that, but
That's awesome.
There has to be video of it,
Yeah, there's video somewhere, and you're in the background. You're in the background walking down the hall.
I probably am looking at my BlackBerry because it was 2009.
Whoa, BlackBerry.
But that's what I would like to see. Song Exploder did a really great, I think that's what it's called. Yeah, Song Exploder on Netflix did a deep dive on Wait for It. If you have not seen that, watch it immediately, because it was just so good. So good.
It's awesome.
Yeah, if you like this show, you absolutely should watch that episode of Sound Exploder. Also, just listen and watch Sound Exploder, because it's a great podcast and it's a great show.
Yeah.
Huge wreck on that.
Yeah.
My follow-up question to both of you, sorry, Regan, is, do we think there will be a movie adaptation of Hamilton at some point?
I hope not.
I don't think I want one.
No, there could be.
I don't think I want one either. I'm just saying.
we got In the Heights, so
See, what I want, I would hope for the future, maybe not just of Hamilton, but this product for everything. Like, give me the Wicked of this. Netflix has got, I think it's called Diana. It's a musical about Princess Diana coming out later this year. Yeah. Same thing. I think if you want to bring musicals to life and have greater audience, this is the way to do it, not what Dear Evan Hansen did.
Yeah.
That's my perspective.
I mean, it works. To your point, it works. Phantom of the Opera works.
Oh, I hate that movie.
I know you
so
do.
Much.
We have very differing opinions.
Oh my gosh, Les Mis, hello?
Yeah.
I love Les Mis. Ooh, Reagan does not. He dislikes Russell Crowe. I watched it like 2 days ago.
Man. No. Speaking of Anne Hathaway, if you were paying attention to me on Twitter today, good grief. So, I mean, it can work, but it can also just go horribly wrong.
Yeah, and it's really easy for it to go horribly wrong.
Yeah. That's why I think you got to stick. Now that we've done the successful live stage show thing, I hope it's the format.
Yeah, more of those, more shows accessible to be able to experience, but also I think more. I would love for Lin-Manuel Miranda to do more like this. Like, pick another famous story in history, that shaped us or is just very well known, and give me a musical about it. I think that would be super cool. Give me some more rap music in musicals. Give me some more. And I know there's critics out there about gender swapping and race swapping, but I think when it's done right, when there's a purpose behind it and there's a statement behind it, that's so strong like that, I think it can be done really well and tasteful. And so I think more of that would be really, really, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
So
it.
It's about time. Let's talk about that. Give us a quick promo. Where can people find it? And you kind of gave us a highlight at the front, but where can we find it? Who's it for? Yeah.
Sure. So thanks so much for the opportunity. So my podcast, It's About Time. It's a podcast sharing stories and strategies to inspire professionals, executives seeking better work, life, and balance. Like I said, I'm a time management coach on a mission to help busy people stop feeling overwhelmed and start spending time on what matters most. And so episodes are either a deep dive into a time management or productivity topic, or it's a behind the scenes look at how go-getters are getting things done. New episodes drop every single Monday, and I would love for you to tune in wherever you listen to podcasts.
That's awesome. And it's not, if I heard correctly, it's not work-life balance.
Right.
It's work, life, and balance.
Work, life, and balance. And that was really intentional.
Yeah.
Because, work-life balance, it's very debatable. It's it's a hot topic.
Awesome. Well, Anna, thank you. Seriously, this has been fun. We may have to do another one in the future and pick a different topic. But
well, thank you so much for having me. This has been an absolute delight and the highlight of my week.
Hey there. You are still listening. Did you forget to turn it off? No? You like our voices that much, huh? Cool. Maybe you're still mowing the lawn or doing dishes and your phone is somewhere else. It's okay, because I've got great news for you. When you get over to where your phone is, before you do anything else, don't start an episode of a different podcast, because there is so much more to this conversation, but unfortunately, there was not enough room or time to leave it here. So, we've put the completely raw, unedited version of this conversation on our Supercast feed. Now that you've made it back to your phone, tap over to fantasticpeoplepod.supercast.tech to hit play on the raw version of this episode and many other behind-the-scenes moments with our previous guests.